Hello, my name is Peter Bricks. I'm a debtor bankruptcy attorney in Atlanta, Georgia, with offices in Woodstock, Jonesboro, Cumming, and Dunwoody. I'm here to talk to you today about whether you reaffirmed a debt in your Chapter 7 and the significance of that. First, I want to read a disclaimer. We're a debt relief agency proudly assisting consumers in filing bankruptcy under the U.S. Bankruptcy Code. There's no attorney-client relationship with the viewer of this message. I'd have to meet with you individually to offer you applicable and accurate legal advice. So today we're talking about whether you reaffirmed a debt in your Chapter 7, and this is for Chapter 7, not a Chapter 13. You don't sign reaffirmations in Chapter 13. So whether you reaffirmed a debt and what that means. The most common way this comes into place in my practice is actually cases I didn't file, cases that were filed either pro se, the debtor filed by themselves, or they filed with another attorney. They filed Chapter 7, received a discharge, and then they're contacting me 2, 3, sometimes 4 years after the case was filed, and they want to know, let's pretend their mortgage, something's happened with their mortgage, they're no longer able to make payments, they are facing foreclosure, maybe a short sale, or they want to sell the home. The equity situation is relatively close. The lien on the house equals about what the house is worth, and they want to know, do I need to do a short sale? Do I need to do a foreclosure? And then I'll say, well, did you reaffirm the mortgage in the Chapter 7? And they'll usually say, well, I told my attorney I wanted to, or I put on my, you file a statement of intention when you file the case. I put on my statement of intention I was going to, and they don't really know. The only way to know is to go back and check the case docket. So your bankruptcy is a public record, so at that point I can get their case information and check the docket myself. And then I find out whether they did in fact reaffirm the debt. Here's the significance of whether they reaffirm the debt. If they reaffirm the debt, they're bound to the debt. Everything that's happened subsequent to the bankruptcy is a legitimate debt. It's being reported to the credit bureaus. And now, because it's a legitimate debt and they're trying to sell their home, they need to satisfy that debt one way or another to get out of that debt, be it a short sale, be it a deed in lieu of foreclosure to the bank, or just a regular old sale. So obviously, if you find yourself in a situation where you are trying to sell a home that has no equity for whatever reason, like I said, maybe you got a job across the country and you want to move. If that's the case, it is critical that you know whether you reaffirmed or not, because if you did not reaffirm the debt, you're not bound to the debt. Now, you still might want to go through with the sale, even if, say, you're not bound to the debt and there's no equity, no money in it for you. You want to get off title because you're moving across the country, and if you vacate while you're still on title, you could still be liable for HOA dues for the next year and a half. Or no one's going to maintain the yard and the county's going to issue a fine against you because you're the title owner, or there's a slip and fall on the property and the title owner gets sued, which is you. So there still could be reasons you would want to sell in that instance, but at least you don't have to worry about the fact that where am I going to come up with the $30,000 cash for closing, because it's $30,000 underwater. Now I've got to market the home. I don't want to deal with that. Or if I don't have the $30,000 cash, do I have to work with the bank on a short sale? Unless you're desperate to get off title, if you did not reaffirm, you don't really have to go through all those efforts. If you did reaffirm, you do. So that's why it's critical that you find out whether you reaffirmed or not. Reaffirmation is done by signing a docket, signing an agreement in the middle of the case. So it's simple. Even if you intended to sign a reaffirmation and you paid the lender every time during the case and subsequent to the case, that doesn't mean you reaffirmed. You either signed a reaffirmation that got approved by the court or you didn't. Now, technically speaking, you still could cancel your reaffirmation after you signed it, but that period's very time window is very limited. It's 60 days or until you get your discharge, whichever is later. So really, if you're coming to me 2 years, 3 years, 4 years after the fact, you're certainly outside that window. So whatever you did at that point, I cannot alter. But this is why now, this could come up in a context of a car, but the thing is, car loans are typically no more than 60 months. And then if you started one, obviously, before your bankruptcy case, because we're talking about whether you reaffirmed it in the bankruptcy case, you might have only had 18 months left. So, presumably that car's paid off already. Um, you know, uh, so that one isn't really as critical as the mortgage one because that one's probably resolved itself by the first year out of the bankruptcy. So if you're not sure whether you reaffirmed and you're underwater on your home or you want to leave your home, you got to find out whether you reaffirmed your mortgage. Simplest thing to do is check that bankruptcy case docket and look and see whether it was reaffirmed. And that'll cover reaffirmations in Chapter 7 bankruptcy.